Thank you very much for joining us at the Voice of Job Seekers. This is Mark. If you want to know more about the podcast, you can go to thevoiceofjobseekers.com and check us out there. There's a blog and a podcast like the one that you're listening to. So hopefully you'll be able to enjoy that. Today I wanted to invite you to listen to the show that I did on Find Your Dream Job podcast with Mac Pritchard, which is found at maxlist.org. We discussed the value of volunteering and how to add value to your job search or personal brand. It's a short interview lasting about 15 minutes. In the show notes, I include a link to the show and Mac's show notes. It was a lot of fun, and actually, he'll be on this show in July, like the next to last show, roughly. Hopefully, that'll work out. Next week's show, I have Jessica Dillard of Dillard's and Associates, a resume writing and national staffing company, to talk about an old school tool. I'll keep in suspense to help you at job fairs and networking events. In the meantime, enjoy this interview. Take care.
Now let's turn to this week's guest expert, Mark Anthony Dyson. Mark is a career consultant who helps unemployed, underemployed, and underappreciated job seekers. Mark's advice has appeared in U.S. News and World Report, Monster, Fox Business, and Time Magazine. He's also the founder of the award-winning career blog and podcast, The Voice of Job Seekers. Mark joins us today from Chicago, Illinois. Mark, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Mac. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you. Our topic this week, as you know, is how volunteering can help your career and even help you get a job. Let's start by talking about the benefits of volunteering for people who work full-time, and we'll talk later in the interview about people who are looking for work. But I can imagine some of our listeners thinking, gosh, it's difficult to volunteer while working and holding a day job. What do you say to folks like that? How can volunteering help their career?
Well, volunteering, first of all, is usually 100% controllable by you, depending on your cause. Now, of course, if you're interested in going to the Peace Corps and working, I'm sure there's a few possibilities there, but a lot of people do that as sort of as a very invested commitment, as well as some of the other organizations. But there are many organizations that would love to just have you 10 hours a week. And if you could do that and do it in a very cheerful and giving way and have some kind of say as what you could do and use some of the skills that you've obtained, it's a win-win for both sides.
What kind of benefits do you see in the people you work with, Mark, who volunteer, whether it's 10 hours or 1 hour a week, when they get to use those skills, for example?
Well, I think one overall benefit is that people are able to build and control their brand to a great degree. And one of the things we'll talk about is you gain skills, you can put them to the test through volunteering. And you can create some opportunities that way. And sometimes it can go quite a long way. But all in all, volunteering is also just so personally gratifying, knowing that you're helping and making a small difference in a way that that can make not only just a difference to your career, but also help other people. Again, it's one of those double wins. It's kind of hard to, once you do it and you begin to see some of the fruit from it, it could be a fantastic opportunity for your career overall.
I've certainly, in my own career and in the people that we work with at MaxList, seen the satisfaction, personal satisfaction that people get from volunteering. You mentioned brands and personal brands, Mark. Tell us more about how volunteering can either improve your brand or help you take it in new ways.
Well, I think when people see you as a volunteer, especially if you're in the job hunt mode, organizations that will vet you will look at volunteering as a very positive thing, much less other than, trying out new skills and making them more fruitful. They can connect with you on volunteering, especially if your cause and your personal cause aligns with the organization. That is seen as a plus.
Okay, so it's an opportunity to break out of a box you might be put in your 9-to-5 job where people think you only have certain kinds of skills, and you have a chance when volunteering to show off new skills or develop new ones.
Right. Yeah, you can even sharpen those newly obtained skills right away. I remember when I first learned Microsoft Office back in the middle 90s. And not only was my boss interested in the investment of the skills, but I was able to turn that around and use that to help my church. And that effort was doubly appreciated. So for me, I got the best of both worlds in that sense. But the practice itself also expanded my ability to use those skills. So very quickly, I was able to be more useful than just coming back and sitting at my desk and knowing not what to do. I was able to put some new ideas to the test and expand on them.
Yeah, so volunteering at your church made you a more experienced word processor, or at least a Microsoft Word expert, and your office and your boss saw those benefits during the workday.
Yeah, exactly. It was actually Excel. Excel was the gold standard, and that was at a time when people were starting to migrate from Lotus to Excel. And it was great to be able to have. Yeah, it was great to be able to have that. And I remember being able to use that in a project for my church, and it really was a double win for me because it gave me more experience. So when I was able to get a promotion the next time around, I had it in the bag. I was ready to go.
Good. Well, for the benefit of listeners who weren't there in the 80s and early 90s, Lotus 1-2-3 was a precursor of Excel, and
yes,
yeah. Before that, there was something called VisiCalc, but I'm really dating myself. Well,
yeah. Well, I've already done the damage, so.
So I like also your point, Mark, about how when you volunteer for an organization or a cause, it can create a personal connection with people who look at your resume or your LinkedIn profile that might not otherwise be there.
Exactly. I mean, when we encourage job seekers to do research on a company. When you see that they have a cause that you either worked for a similar cause or a cause that you're interested in, that's a way to connect with the employer. There have been a couple of times when, as an experiment, that I suggested to somebody who was already working and pretty solid in their career, but they were interested in this company to work for. It was one of the larger technology companies around. And I suggested, well, you like to do what they do, and because they had some press on it. So I suggested, see if you can volunteer the same day and connect with a couple of people, maybe network with them. And not only they did that, but they were able to get an interview. They didn't get the job, but there was a watershed moment for them that they saw the volunteer effort more than just something that was, just to be personally satisfied. It was a way to create an opportunity.
Yeah, so they were able to build a relationship outside of the traditional application process. And they basically, in a professional way, went around HR.
Exactly. And really, isn't it the job search? The best way to go about the job search is to exert a little disruption. You're disrupting the online application and the resume and all the screening process by getting a referral inside, and being that you talk to an employee and somebody that likes you because you have something in common, why not disrupt the process that way?
Yeah. So that's terrific. And you're preaching to the choir here. We're all about the hidden job market at Mac's List and looking for ways to build those relationships while being respectful of formal application processes too.
Sure.
Well, let's talk about the strategy of volunteering. Now, you want to do good, and that's what motivates you. But there's so many opportunities, Mark. Now, what if you're thinking about how volunteering can benefit your career or your job search? How do you think people should step back and think about that strategically? What do you see the successful people you work with do when they think about the strategy of volunteering to help their career?
Well, people are very successful and understand that that they could actually create opportunities not only for themselves but for others. They're looking at it from a career trajectory point of view. I don't exclusively work with executives or people in high-level management, but when I do, the one thing that seems to always stand out is that they always volunteer. It was always about giving back. But when they were out of jobs, like during the recession, or a few years ago when the job market was very troubled, they leaned back on volunteering and used their volunteering to extend their career possibilities. So one person I remember learned a couple of new skills through their volunteer organization that they volunteered with. And volunteer organizations were able to have the patience and time because they're grateful to have the help. But somebody that's a little savvy, whether they're tech savvy or that they're very useful with their hands, create those opportunities and find ways to find an end to even create a new career. So it could work to your advantage in so many ways that the creative part of you has to be there and be willing to take a chance in spending more time and more effort in creating more value for an organization.
Now let's talk about job seekers, because we've been talking about people who are employed and volunteering while pursuing a career. But if you're between jobs, Mark, is there a different strategy for volunteering? I think you've touched on this when you were talking about people you worked with who were out of work during the recession. Tell us more about what people who are out of work should do when they consider volunteering.
Well, I think if you're out of a job and you're not exactly sure what to do, hopefully you are being active in learning some kind of new skill that you're looking forward to figuring out how to create more value for a pending or employer that you hope to find a job with. You can go, and one thing that people do, and I think that's kind of waning a little bit lately, is that you go and volunteer with the organization that you're interested in working with. There's many ways you could do that. One is you can try to network your way in. Another way is to contact the volunteer arm of the organization and to see how you can be a part and how you could be support and add value that way. Now, you've got to be somewhat careful in it. You can't sound desperate. It can't sound like you have an end game in mind. But if you are offering to authentically help, organizations will be glad to either refer you to another organization or be glad to make you a part of it. And there are organizations that will be glad to make you a part of their efforts, even if it's once a month or once every other week. And I know like big organizations like the Big Fours would have Fridays as their day to volunteer. And even if it's just to do something simple, to hand out flyers, that's a networking opportunity. As you know, networking, as we talked about, is the way to get into any organization. So people just need to be creative and look for those opportunities. They can check the press for where the organizations are at and to show up and to possibly find a way to meet people that are there. So, again, the creativity is just really important.
Should people who are between jobs, if they volunteer at an organization where they'd like to work, should they expect that volunteer gig to lead to a job offer?
It's not always. It depends on the organization and their needs. I mean, that's the other creative part. If you know what the organization needs and you can glean that from the job descriptions, from the people you talk to their volunteer efforts, and you can look at different LinkedIn profiles or Facebook pages to kind of get an idea of what the organization is actually talking about. And if you can fit those needs, you might have more of a possibility. If it's random, probably not as much, but it does take being strategic, and a lot of forethought needs to go ahead of it to expect something out of it. If anything, you can at least make a dent and make more contact. That could be helpful for you, especially if you can possibly get relationships out of it. That's always helpful.
Well, great. Well, terrific advice, Mark. Now tell us what's coming up next for you.
The blog and the podcast are one of my main vehicles to making it all happen. Love writing for the blog. The blog is going on 5 years. Actually 6 years. I'm sorry. We're 5.5 years old.
Congratulations. That's wonderful.
Thanks. July of 2011 is when I officially started. And the podcast is going on 4 years this year. So I churned out 150 episodes, actually more than this particular point. And the feedback has been great. And it's really been a great tool for a lot of people as they found it and found it useful for them.
I had a chance to listen to an episode last week, just preparing for this conversation, and it's a terrific show. So I encourage our listeners to check it out.
Thank you.
To find both the blog, the podcast, and other materials that Mark offers people, visit his website, and that URL is easy to remember. It's voiceofjobseekers.com. We'll also
the Voice of Job Seekers.
Oh, thank you.
The Voice of Job Seekers.com.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, and we'll be sure to fix that in the show notes too. So the voiceofjobseekers.com, and we'll again include that in the show notes. Well, Mark, thanks for joining us this week.
Well, thank you.
Take care.
All right, take care.